in me all the time. I've been in this village so many times, and the people have been so generous to me. They obviously enjoy having visitors. Of course they enjoy visitors. We all like visitors. But they are being watered down to some extent. Their strength is slowly diminishing. Their emotional strength, their mental strength. It's bad. It's going to eventually disappear, I think. Be like the American Indians eventually.
I have no idea what it is.
Coming back on the...
No idea.
This is a wonderful drum. That's... Yes. Let me put my glasses on first. I can't hear without my glasses. I just wanted to see whether there was any indication whether it's male or female. There are breasts. Rather small, but adequate, I'm sure. And the Osmata have no shame whatsoever about displaying their genitals. And why should they? This is, the main use for this is as bride price. Another reason is formally to make a hole in the temple and then to extract the brains. When the film crew and I leave the ship, we will be going into the interior of Osmat, something I haven't been able to do for years. We will be traveling in a small motorboat, and the captain is worried that we might turn over because we're heading right into the storm.
The most intensive land-air search in South Pacific history is drawing to a close as hopes fade that the son of New York's Governor Nelson Rockefeller will be found alive. He swam for shore when his exploration craft capsized and left no clue to his fate. The 23-year-old scion of one of America's great fortunes, he was a dedicated anthropologist and apparently was held in respect by the natives.
Tourists come here to be on the spot where Michael Rockefeller presumably was killed and eaten. They said that they found him on the beach and that they ate him, is what they said. Now, like the rest of us, they're braggarts. A lot of things in Osmat could have happened to me, there's no question of that. But it was so great to be with a people who were so fresh and so alive and so interested in me. And I was certainly interested in them, and there was no hesitation on their part about answering any questions that I asked.
Dama dam sampai eras marap omer bu ayu wira ma eras omer bu ini memang ni mau pak mana eras ini masih ni mau pesan mau pak dama omer si wina karan baca ramam drama mas bawa sama mama manjo mari bare bu ayu yang merap ayu ni dam sampai maram karundak mau pak maram takasai juga mes eras mana dam sama karun mau pak वो मने चरा मंदरा मारे भारत चौकान में बाची मारे Tobias aramen du chiro mbeti biat ga chu chemeres afu ina kap Endi simit nakap, endre na simit nakap. Biya taka chuche mere sa Tobias rama trip rama busi po me. Amu busi po me. Wo mane ma ayi amra mam anaga pisa minip ndara me minim pak ndara fuira mo sa tipo amra. Ba asya raw.
You can imagine in the suburbs of New York, somebody from New Guinea knocking on the door, coming in and asking you how much money you make, what are your sexual practices, and is it true that your ancestors ate each other? I mean, it's so bizarre, it's beyond our comprehension. But it happens all over the world by representatives of Western culture. We do go into other people's houses. We do sort of sit down. They don't know what to do with us, really. They don't know how to get rid of us. They don't know what we want. And we do start asking them the most intimate questions, and questions that have an awful lot of presumptions. Just imagine sitting here on Long Island and someone coming in and asking you about your sex practices, and then offering you maybe $1 for the information or a pound of sugar.
I only know that I like to put myself into positions whereby I become part of the landscape. I become part of the world. Here I am. I'm 76, and life doesn't go on forever, I'm happy to say. If I slip in the mud, Asmat is known for its mud. If I slip in the mud, that's it. I've had it. Certainly nobody here will be able to repair another broken hip, or rather another prosthesis for the hip. I write and continue to do research on Asmat carvings, and I love doing that. That brings me back to the painting world or to the sculpture world. And in that way, I have been able to relieve myself of the pain of having left painting. It was painful. I always was searching for a brush or searching for the smell of the paint in my studio. This is the house that I used to live in. Has a satellite dish now. Didn't have that when I was here. I used to have orchids that were mostly lining this walkway here. I got them out of the jungle. It was lovely when it was the right time of the year. It was always lovely. We were at this auction in Agats when we ran into my very good friend, I. Pitt. I really thought he was dead. And suddenly for him to appear was shocking. Saya mau ambil foto dari iPad. Dan mereka mau lihat. I can't get over that kiss. Saya bye. Betul. The relationship between myself and iPad was one of, I think, love and friendship. And also it included sexual activity.
From Washington, here is CBS News correspondent Charlie Rose.
Tobias Schneebaums is here. Where the spirits dwell, an odyssey in the jungle of New Guinea. How does this homosexuality business work?
Only in the south of Osmond. Every man has a male sexual partner who is his bond friend and with whom he also exchanges wives.
So he has wives too, though. It continues.
He may have one wife or two wives or three.
It's just part of their culture to have homosexual relationships.
Right.
Why did you do it with them?
Why not?
Well, because you're there to study them, not to play with them.
Well, that's true. But nevertheless, how else can you study them if you don't understand the acts and what acts?
Oh, come on, Tobias. What do you mean?
They wouldn't. If I had not participated to any extent, I would never have gotten any information. Period. That's it.
In Rome, do as the Romans do.
Well, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. Oh, he's got relationships here. Naneo.
Pimbata.
Dimana?
Pimbata.
Dimana?
Pirimata di atas.
Oh, Pirimat, yeah. Pirimat, which is way upriver. Lagi.
Terus Vergagas.
Agats.
Agas.
He's got plenty of them.
Perpis.
Perpis.
Terus Yo.
Yeah.
Sampai di Bior. Nawitnya Piri. Sampai datang Tobias.
Yeah, that's... He had relationships all the way along the coast. Semua laki-laki. Yeah, laki-laki dan perempuan. Men and women.
This is a man who clearly wants to find homosexuality in most societies and wants to find it as a natural part. And while I believe that that's probably true, and while he believes that that's probably true, he brings to it a preconceived desire that I think overdetermines what he actually finds.
Is this one of your lovers?
No, not at all. That was not a sexual meeting.
Yeah.
That is the normal greeting. In New Guinea, there are many different kinds of greetings. Yes, you rub chins there.
Yeah.
In the north of this area, directly north, in the Baleen Valley, the greeting is to hold testicles. As you reach out and you grab the testicles of your male friend. Or not necessarily friend.
We'll talk more about this when we get back. Stay with us.
I would characterize it as a love affair. He was so attractive, and to me he still is. And often I can't keep my hands off him. But that's... I know I'll have to separate, and I don't want to make that break again. It isn't easy. We've had wonderful times together. He taught me also about the, not only the sexual side of life, but also the daily life, which included going fishing, doing this and that, going to the sago fields. And it was great while it lasted. His presence brings up the whole past, and I don't concentrate on anything else.
I became a bishop in 1969. Yeah, at that time, I was the youngest in the world. You came as a tourist first.
Right.
And I think really it was Father Trank that told me that you were here. I was a tremendous artist here. He would know how to do these sketches of the art. He said, marvelous things. So I got a hold of Tobias. We sat down and talked, and I said, well, we need a catalog. The fact that he was Jewish didn't matter at all. That Tobias is homosexual, that was his matter, not my matter.
I made drawings of about 300 of the artifacts, the copies of which are in the museum now. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful carvings. Oh, to me, this was so vibrant that simply by looking at the carvings, I felt remarkably alive once again. This speaks to me. I have no doubt that some of it is directed right at me, and I feel those spirits. See almost anything. 2 months or so. Sometimes I see them on Jewish holidays, sometimes on special occasions.
Now, I ain't got nothing to say, except, like we say in New Guinea, mazel tov.
When I was a boy, I studied to be a rabbi. But I do remember the songs I used to sing and the whole atmosphere of the synagogue. But obviously I never became a rabbi. These are the 10 plagues which the most holy blessed be he brought upon the Egyptians in Egypt. Svadeya, Kinim, Orov, Decher, Shchin, Boror, Arbe, Oshech, Makas, Bechol Ros. I don't drive, I can't swim, and I don't ride a bicycle. Let's face it, I'm a lifer, a lifelong New Yorker. At this point in my life, I cannot think of living anywhere but where I am right now. All my friends are here. This is Floriano, my closest and oldest friend, looking absolutely wonderful. This was taken about 25 or more years ago.
I don't like to travel. If I have to go to Brooklyn next morning, I don't sleep well.
5,200. $5,200. 5,300. 5,400. 5,500.
Wherever he goes, he becomes one of the people. And he's like a camaleonte, we say in Italian, chameleon. It goes to India, looks like an Indian, looks like Gandhi, just like him. He's accepted by all these people.
5,800 now. 5,008. 5,900. 5,900. To the gentleman in the center. Fair warning, ladies and gentlemen. 5,900. Sold.
Donatus is the cultural representative of the Asmat people. This is not the first time that Donatus has been in the States. In 1991, 29 Asmat men and 1 woman arrived in New York. First, they were demonstrating their carving skills at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. Then they spent about a little over a week in New York, where they were an enormous success. They went from there to New Orleans. People were riveted to see them when the Asmat would walk along the street with feathers in their hair and their faces all painted. It was like some Halloween that came out of the jungle at some point or other. It was just beautiful.
Ya, kita lihat dari modern ini tidak tertarik tapi dengan budaya. Saya senang sekali.
They're very happy about it all here. It's very strange to me, but why not? I mean, why shouldn't he have a spirituality coming out of New York and being here? Because I've lived here all my life. It's a whole other story.
Tobias Schneebaum was born on the Lower East Side of Manhattan spent most of his youth in Brooklyn, and after the war studied art under Tamayo and has been a painter ever since.
As a painter in the early 50s, I went to the Museum of Modern Art as often as I could. At one point, there was an exhibition of photographs of the ruins and landscape around Machu Picchu. And I took one look at the ruins, and I decided that's where I have to go one day. And when I later applied for Fulbright, I asked to go to Peru. I just had to go and find out for myself what the people were like. And it was one of the most exciting experiences I ever had and ever will have.
And this is the kind of letter that he wrote, hitchhiking, really, from New York all the way to Peru.
I traveled all over Peru and met an archaeologist who told me about a remote Catholic mission in the jungle. And he told me that that's where I should go. Because he said that there was a mission some days into the jungle to which I would have to walk, and he would get the directions for me. And I went to this mission, where there was a Dominican missionary of some 69 years of age, and two other white people. And while I was there, after 5 or 6 weeks, a man appeared out of the jungle, and he had feathers stuck into the flesh around his mouth. And that man told us that his whole tribe had been killed by another tribe. And of course, the minute I heard that, I decided that's where I had. And it allowed me also to express myself more fully in a book called Keep the River on Your Right.
Publishers Weekly had this to say about Keep the River on Your Right. Authentic, deeply moving, sensuously written, and incredibly haunting. One of the most engrossing and strangely beautiful personal stories of this or any season. And in the beginning, Tobias has a quotation from the teachings of Don Juan, in which he writes, "Look at every path closely and deliberately. Try it as many times as you think necessary, but ask yourself and yourself alone one question: does this path have a heart?"
Know that I have been waiting patiently to get a Frankfurter, a hot dog from Nathan's. I have always lusted after the wild man of Borneo. And my earliest memories reach back to him. I was in Coney Island with my brothers and mother. She herding us along Surf Avenue into the dark shadows under the boardwalk. I think it was at the time when my mother had some cancers on her face and on her body, and the doctor advised her to go into the salt water. So we would come at night so that nobody could see my mother undress. And she'd be right under where we're standing now, more or less, to change into her bathing suit, and then she would just lie in the water for an hour or two. I couldn't understand why God, if such a being exists, why God allowed such a thing to happen to my beautiful mother. It was a horrifying time, but somehow it was also a curious time. I was walking with my mother and my brothers when we came upon this sideshow. I gasped when I saw this sign saying, "The Wild Man of Borneo."
Now, Gertie, make a monkey face at the folks so they'll always remember how pretty you are. I want them all to dream about you when they go home tonight.
He intrigued me so much that that image remains today, 75 years later, vivid in my mind.
Part of the transition from primitivism earlier in the century to primitivism in the late part of the century is that it's all much closer to home. Instead of trying to venture out into exotic space, which was once the privileged mode, places like tattoo parlors, like malls where you can buy the jewelry that'll go into the ears or into the penis, those have become the sites of primitivism.
It's like consumer tribalism. I understand that young people today like to get tattooed and pierced. I had a desire once to have my nose pierced in the way the Osmite do and have that big bone shell go through my nose. But I really didn't want to do it. The only thing I ever did was had myself scarified. But I look, so many young people, I'm not sure what they're looking for. Maybe they're looking for exactly what I've been searching for all my life. Maybe they're the same as I am. But it does look a little silly. But then again, things that I thought were exciting would look silly to them today.
Trader Horn reveals the long-hidden secrets of the Dark Continent.
Pictures of Harry Carey trudging through the savage forest in the enervating heat. rifles across the crooks of their elbows, clothes in shreds, sweat pouring down their faces and staining armpits. They were pushing on to gold or diamond mines, or off to rescue golden-haired princesses held captive by leopard men, or by painted Zulus known to trap and mutilate all whites, tearing off their genitals and eating them to gain the white man's strength and magic. But I wanted it reversed. I wanted the wild man inside me, masticated, swallowed, absorbed. Yet I asked myself, is my drive to reach the unknown, to go farther and farther into danger, a way to masculinity, or nothing more than a masochistic drama? Whoa. I wrote that?
Does it taste like it did 60 years ago? Does it taste like it did 60 years ago?
It does.
Very good.
It's probably the same hot dogs.
I thoroughly enjoy having sex. I like it. I still enjoy it. Alas, to be perfectly honest, I'm ready for Viagra, or I've been ready for Viagra for quite a while. But nonetheless, I can have a great deal of pleasure as things are right now.
There's nothing Toby likes more, I think, than the idea of some kind of like smelly, scarified, matted-haired, tattooed and pierced black man, naked and with a heart-on, and that's like Toby's dream. I was very charmed by Toby when I met him for the first time. Very charming at a cocktail party. The fact that he was so much older than I was just, I don't know, it just seemed like I was glad to do something with Toby that he wanted to do. Because he's a good friend, and I can't have sex with all my friends, but with Toby, I could do that just because he's so undeceitful. You know, there's just nothing about Toby that has an ulterior motive. I mean, it is what it is.
How out was Toby? Oh, all the way out, no?
I think so.
Yeah, which was rare in those days. It was a very conservative time. We knew each other back in the early 50s, 51 even.
I lived at 39 First Avenue, and Norman lived at 41.
41. Yeah, we lived next door. Toby was like our house homosexual. You see, we were lowering the bands for him. And then, of course, when he did all these things, the attitude was, my God, how did our house homosexual do all this? You know, so you changed my notions about the essential nature of homosexuals. I'd really been quite complacent about it up to that point. You know, homosexuals can be very nice people, very sweet people, but they're limited. There's certain things they don't do. Toby's one of the most extraordinary people I've ever known. There was such sensitivity in him, and at the same time, such warmth and such timidity and fear in him. He really has ends to himself that are larger than anyone I know. On the one hand, he's terrified of a dead mouse, and on the other hand, he'll go into the jungle and live with cannibals. I really had never understood the depth of Toby's motivation, his seriousness. When you're friends with someone, you tend to know them in their middling periods and their low periods, and not often in their high periods. You don't necessarily see your friends at their best. Well, very often that's why you're friends with people, is because you don't have to be at your best with them. You know, there's an element of comfort in friendship, so that generally when your friends do exceptional things, it's a little surprising. And that was the feeling I had. I was surprised. I thought, gee, Toby's got so much to him, and I never saw. What kind of novelist am I?
Why have I not been back to Peru in 45 years? How do I feel about going back now? Well, I am 78 years old. I have Parkinson's, so I don't have much time anyway, one way or another. The minute the whole business started of going back to Peru, I began having nightmares. It's something that I don't want to think about, and I've tried over the years not to think about it. I don't want to go back. I really don't. The producers and directors have talked me into it. because surely all the people are dead that I had met. In 45 years, how could they possibly have survived? Once I wrote something about the landscape being so thrilling to me, and my God, it's like having an orgasm. I didn't have an orgasm, but it felt like I was going to have one. Everything is sacred to me. Landscape, human beings, light, the sun, my painting, my writing, my friends. I absorb whatever I can from the atmosphere, and that almost makes me into another human being, one that can make contact. Wow, but look at this. At this unbelievable place called Machu Picchu. To come and put my feet, it's like a magic, and like my being back at the times of the Inca. Oh, what is that? Hello, little bird. I'm old, yet look at what I'm doing. Machu Picchu, one of the great ruins of the world, and here I am sitting in the middle of it. 78 years old doesn't seem to matter.
Our next guest wrote this book, which I'm showing you, in which he relates his experiences while living with a tribe of cannibals for 7 months in South America. He does this, things like this, because as an artist and a part-time archaeologist, he feels he can get closer to the essence of man by observing primitive cultures. Would you greet Tobias Schneebaum? Greet him, Tobias. For starters, what sent you to South America?
I had a painting Fulbright to go to Peru, and I had always wanted to see the ruins of Machu Picchu, a great Inca ruin in the Andes. And I wandered around Peru till I saw what I wanted to see, and then I wandered into the jungle. The first time I came here, I was on the top of a truck. The people were kind of squashed in, warming me, because we were all in a bundle, so to speak. They were so friendly and so gentle and so sweet to me. They kept offering me sweet potatoes or cassava. They were all chattering at me, even though they knew I didn't understand Quechua, which is the local language, the language of the Inca.
Keep the river on your right.
Yeah.
How did that title come about?
That was the direction given to me for the mission.
Just keep the river on
Keep
your
the
right
river
all
on
the
my
time?
right. I took a truck down from Cusco as far as I could go, and then I walked.
The rest on foot, huh?
8 days.
¿Quieres Río Grande, chiquito?
No sé cuántos ríos hay acá.
¿Qué Río Tondo? Río Cosmipata.
Y usted, señora, cuando ha venido, están preguntando al señor si sabía de un grupo nativo Amakairi acá.
No había.
¿No había?
No había.
Could you tell me, please, whether there was ever a bridge here.
A la izquierda del río. Había. Okay, he remembers the trail on the left side of the river, with the river on your right, going all the way down to the mission. The only bridge here was right at this spot where the modern day bridge is.
I'm looking.
See there where that concrete foundation is? And some steel cables coming out?
This is the Madre de Dios River, the river that I kept on my right in my book. And my travels, I climbed, and I didn't climb, but I went along those mountains there. The mission, the Catholic mission, was down that way. To come back after 45 years and somebody recognizes me right away, that's something. How far is San Jose? Miserable. I'm not tired. I'm just thinking about going back in the dark. And if I slip even a little bit, I'll break my hip again, and then I'll never walk again.
What made you decide to seek out a cannibalistic tribe?
Well, actually, I didn't seek out at first the cannibalistic tribe. I sought out the mission, a mission in the jungle.
Por acá era, dice, casa del padre. Con eso estamos guiando.
¿Quién ha plantado, señor, este árbol? Father Jose has planted this tree.
Sí, ese.
Esto era. Más grande era, pero este le ha comido.
Pero las casas que eran no las llevó el río.
Ahí está.
Existe.
Ahí todavía está.
Y ahí estamos.
Where there are supposed to be all the Amarakaire. The Amarakaire were still living when I met them, still living a more pure life. That had to do with their own culture rather than Father Alvarez or Father Moises, as I called him in the book, who was, of course, converting them to Catholicism. Of course, I couldn't say anything about that. That's what he wanted to do, and they accepted it, so I can't complain. But does that... I really love that sound. The harder, the better. The more difficult it is to get to a place, the fewer other people have been there. The fewer foreigners or Westerners or whatever you call them have been there. And that's the kind of place I most enjoy going to, where there have been either no one before me or only a few.
So what language you spoke with them?
Didn't in the beginning.
Just love.
I thought, I'm a painter. I'm going to be very clever. I'm going to write down make all these drawings and show them, and they will know everything.
And you didn't?
They had never seen a drawing in their lives. They had no concept of what a drawing was. Change is brought about by the first person who arrives, for the good or the bad. It's rarely for the good, as far as I see it.
Acá es la señora Cuyacan Balsa. Oye, tendría sus 15 o 14 años por eso.
Mamá.
This is me here, over here, with my white skin. And this is Warepa, whose brother is right here.
But Arike, he appears on both photos. This is him, and this guy here with the bows and arrows is him too.
Ahora que pone ropa ya es feo ahora. Mamining bayo kayo, ganda kaya ko, ikot jak mayawe.
Indo, pivot yan tak ko na wa. Tunggu dia ada tak ko na.
Kan panan ni kata kan banyak ni kan punya pal ni dengan ni kata. Ulo plat saya nopo ini.
Did you try to give them something from our society, like a camera, to show them something that will open their mind, they won't understand?
Their minds were open. Our minds were the closed minds.
Let's not say that, but let's say that our minds are different. Did you try to show their mind, which is, in your words, bigger than ours? Did you try to show them something that our mind grasped?
Do they have a family structure as we know it, the cannibals? No?
No, they nobody got married. They had a kind of free and open society. What can I say?
Like the hippies.
Is it true?
It wasn't like hippies. They were for real.
Here's an interesting point, though. I understand that there is no crime in a society such as this. Is that true?
There was no such thing as personal property or anything like that. Nobody stole from anybody or anything.
Nobody stole from
anybody.
They had nothing to be stolen. What
do you know how long it takes to make a bow?
They have nothing else to do?
Well, that's all right, too.
They have nothing else to do, so they make a bow.
Those are personal belongings.
So what do all these people here do?
Knives. Those are personal belongings.
So they sit in an office all day long. That's better?
Kan magkaya ito turo yung bukalo maempo kan cintoy kita ko tumpu kawan pai inda bong kia man kumon ka kan yame pia kan tamon.
Remember very clearly.
That was terrible.
Him going on hunting expeditions with them, yeah, and he tried very hard, but he couldn't.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Wow, ganda. Kaya kung kuitin, umberio, ya, kan tua wai ipare kan. Ini nanon ti otto video atialo onti ono MBP otto tigunwo menia ore tanya imate MBP ritna.
Tambayo ikamay karato.
Karato.
Tambayo.
Tambayo.
Ada ngomong ada kali matanya nih, tanya matanya nih kami tambayo karato.
Did you learn anything from them?
Well, I learned about compassion and love and humane things that are very difficult to find here. I mean, people in our society no longer have compassion for each other. They're only interested in themselves.
When you say compassion for each other, how do you justify them killing another tribe? When you
it's
say
another tribe. It's out of their group.
That's hardly showing compassion, though, to walk out and kill a whole tribe and then take their women and their kids.
They're presumably a more primitive society than we are. We go around killing people. We have wars all the time.
Eso con la flecha de que se iban en guerra eran los más anteriores que existían antes que llegara la colonización toda esa parte y antes que los señores también vivieran.
Antropólogo, creo que fue puesto el nombre de Amaraqueiro, más o menos me acuerdo, según la interpretación de Tomás Moore.
Casi como un insulto entre nosotros.
¿Insulto?
Sí, traidor, criminal, o sea, es un término no muy usado en Aracumba.
Eso es lo que
Siento que está con joven, pues inda bong kia made ya bong joven, era como que ya un patio en el codo, y le con polvo can pu mato ya me can ya me voy a explicar.
This is the Rio.
Buah.
Abajo.
Espera, caramba. Yo también quiero mirar. No vamos a mojar así, ¿no?
Ya yo me pagan yo. Y no puedo ya dentro ya pa oro tapi mok no fuego. Ya estamos que mình bôi hồn giặc bôi bôi giặc bôi nó vậy nè giờ mình tao bao nhiêu ngày bôi mấy giờ đó mấy giờ đi giờ đi con giờ mấy giờ đó mấy giờ không có đi đâu mấy giờ đó mấy giờ đó hết tên gì về mấy giờ đó on bỏ kia bò mấy giờ đó hết tên về em về về bò mấy giờ đi giờ đi mấy giờ đó thấy yon ta nô bù về mấy giờ bò mấy giờ đi giờ đi mấy giờ đó cái mấy giờ đó mấy giờ đi giờ đi mấy giờ đó mấy giờ in nghe ngọt tên nó pa mấy giờ đi
Mr. Schneebaum, why did you leave and when did you leave?
Well, I left at the soon after that business of the murder, and I left partly because of that, and partly because I had to return to civilization that I needed more than that they offered.
Did you tell them? Did you inform their
No, I
peers?
just got up and left one day. There came another hunting trip with many men, and me among them freshly painted, going farther and farther into the forest, carrying in my hand my bow and arrows, while they carried theirs too, and axes of stone as well. The rains of the season had already begun, and sheets of water drenched the jungle and flooded the rivers.
Did you know you were going on a raid?
No, I had no idea. We went on a longer hunt than we had gone before, and we waited till nightfall, and then we ran into this village, and they killed all the men in sight. You
didn't try to stop them or anything?
No, I was in their society. I mean, I was trying to live their kind of life. Why should I stop them from doing their thing?
Well, what was your reaction when you saw them?
Well, I got sick. But I'm not ashamed. I participated in with a group of people who had a different kind of lifestyle. Before going there or meeting other so-called primitive people, I always tried to delve into their lives or to move into their lives as closely as possible. But it was always difficult separating myself from them later.
What was your feeling about all the killing?
Well, the killing was what disturbed me. The cannibalism didn't bother me at all. I participated to much more of an extent than I would have wished, let's face it, as long as I had to participate. One of the men who came over to me and put the spear in my hand and pushed the spear into what was already a dead body. Even so, it didn't matter to me that the body was dead. It was that the spear went into. It just, I don't know, it's very hard to cope with something like that. And I still haven't coped with it, let's face it. No matter what I say, I still know that it's too difficult for me.
Did you actually take part in the eating of the flesh?
Yes, I did.
Oh, goodness. Why do you say that?
Well, I did.
How could you?
Well, it was part
Well,
of
it was simple. I was there with his group.
How did it taste?
It tasted a little bit like pork.
Like pork?
Like pork.
Everyone was up dancing and having a great time. And when it came my turn, I just ate a piece. There wasn't much that I ate, but it was certainly human flesh. At first I thought it was part of the heart, but I don't think so. I don't even remember now what part of the body it was. It was just a small piece of flesh. Awful.
Are you a cannibal?
Well, that one instance, certainly, I was a cannibal. But that doesn't make me a cannibal. I'm not a cannibal. I'm something quite different. I'm the opposite of a cannibal. At least I think I am. But then one always looks at oneself quite differently from the way other people see you. My friends never bring up the subject, not because they do it consciously, but because that business of the cannibalism was such a tiny part of my life. It didn't get any publicity, it didn't get any, and it had no effect on me in the beginning. I left because I couldn't stand the concept, but then I kind of dropped it out of my head. I pushed it out of my head. Maybe I pushed it down into my stomach somewhere, because that's what becomes painful, that part of my body. Yes, I'm certainly glad I came back to Peru. I am.